Hello, I'm Segun Manuel, and we believe that entrepreneurship is something we must develop in Africa and indeed the developing economies of the world. That is why we have this program called Let's Talk Business on this station. We want you to watch because we sit down with entrepreneurs and they encourage you on how to develop your own entrepreneurship business. Keep watching Let's Talk Business on this station.
Let's Talk Business, showing on the station.
Welcome to Let's Talk Business. My name is Segun Manuel, and on today's episode of the program, we will be looking at issues that affect young people in productivity and in entrepreneurship. And to do justice to today's topic, we have one of Nigeria's finest in the house. We have a man who's not just an ordinary man. He calls himself a champion. And when we get into the episode of the program, you will know the reason why he's a champion. And as a matter of fact, he is the CRO of IamaCHAMP Limited. He's also a productivity expert and a productivity coach. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Abiola Salami in the house. Abiola, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Champion Segun.
Thank you. We feel very elated to have you on the program. You are called a champion, and by the way, you've written in a book, and it's called Get Mad. Why Get Mad?
You know, when people hear get mad, they think that it's a communication of being crazy. But rather, get mad is a solution to a problem I call insanity. I'm sure you've probably heard this before, that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So the book is written based on the philosophy that if you truly want a different result, quit insanity and get mad, which is M-A-D, make a difference. So it's about you making a difference, becoming a champion, and changing your world.
That's right. So I'm going to link this to the game conference. You're also the organizer of the game conference. What's it exactly about? Is it about telling people how to get mad?
Okay. The game conference, it's called now Africa's #1 conference on workforce productivity. Sure. And game is goal attainment made easy. That's the full meaning, goal attainment
I like
made
that. You
easy.
seem to have a lot of acronyms.
You know,
mad, game.
there are a number of others anyway. And it's about equipping the workforce in Africa with the necessary things needed for progressive productivity. And it's designed based on a theory that says that the most productive professional, whether as an entrepreneur or as an employee, the most productive professional is the one that has total well-being. So GAME is looking at 5 areas of life and ensuring that individuals are productive. It's looking at career well-being, it's looking at social well-being, it's looking at financial well-being, it's looking at physical well-being, and then community well-being. And community well-being is where making a difference has a meaning. That's where make a difference finds its meaning. I
was privy to get the information on Game Conference 2013. Could you tell us a brief information so that people get to know who and who came there and who were part of the speakers, and how did Game 2013 go?
Okay.
I know it was a success. I just want you to tell us.
Yes, we are grateful to God for the success of Game 2013. Game 2013, we hosted Honorable Abike Dabiri-Erawa. Game 2013, we hosted Professor Pat Utomi. Also on the faculty was Sir Ademola Aladekomo, who's the MD/CEO of CHAMS PLC. And we hosted Mrs. Mavi Isibo, who is the founder of Poise Nigeria Limited. We hosted the first female partner of Akintola Williams Deloitte, and the person of Mrs. Uche Nairobu. We hosted Ms. Leila St. Matthew Daniels. We hosted also Mrs. Mo Abudu, who was an award recipient, because Game 2013, the crowning of Game 2013 was what we call the Make a Difference Awards, MAD Awards. And so she was there in person, and also the governor of the state of Osun, Nigeria, and the person of Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola was one of our award recipients as well. We had his deputy, you know, also around alive at the conference. And, you know, it was a very rewarding learning experience. We had also the MD of Inside Communications and the person of Mr. Jimmy Awoshika. And all this orgas at the top, as it were, they came to share experience on these different areas of life. You know, what we designed is such that the methodology is experiential learning. All of these guys, they have an average of 3 decades of work experience. They've navigated the corporate space for about 3 decades. Then they've passed through these different areas of life for an average of 3 decades. And it's just a wonderful platform for young professionals to come around and learn from these guys how they made it to the top, such that they're not just successful in their careers, their family life, their finances, their physical well-being, everything is well-rounded together. And of course, we have the pleasure of hosting Dr. Christopher Kolade, at the event also, who doesn't have just 3 decades of years of experience, who has over 5 decades of years of experience, and it's just wonderful, and we thank God for the success.
Well, that's nice. Many people don't know that you were on the Debaters. I know I saw you on the Debaters. Tell us about that experience. How's it been for you since you were on the Debaters?
Okay.
By the way, the Debaters is a talk show kind of debating competition where you come with ideas. And I had many of you profiling solutions on how we could solve unemployment, how we could solve many of the issues that affect our young people. Tell us, how was your experience?
The Debaters. Okay, I would like to say thank you.
It was a springboard for you, I guess.
It was, and that's why I would like to say thank you to Mrs. Mo Abudu, because she created that brand. And the byline I remember is oratory, the power to change. Because if you want to birth any change in any society, it starts with communication. And when a leader can communicate well, not necessarily the person in a position. A leader is not about you having a position, it's about the disposition that you have. And so when you want to communicate change, you need to have the right skills to bring it out. And that's one of the things the Debaters did for me. It was my first time on TV, and still today I met somebody somewhere and say, oh, I remember you on the Debaters. That was 3 years ago now. That was 3 years ago. It's just a very good learning experience. And one of the things I took out from the Debaters is about confidence, understanding how to use confidence. Because many people have low confidence. Very few people have high confidence. But what you need is not low or high confidence. You need to be able to regulate your confidence level to meet with the audience at a particular point in time. And for me, the work I had to do on myself wasn't to increase my confidence level. It was to reduce my confidence level, because we have natural gifts, and your gift, your talent is raw until you take it through a process to transform it to a skill. And that was what the Debaters did for me, to help me transform that raw talent I had into a skill.
I like the fact that the Debaters helped you turn your raw talent into a skill. But we're going to talk about your skill now. What particular skill did you develop from this raw talent? I mean, many will say, oh, okay, public speaking is a public speaker, but I know it's more than that. Tell us about it.
Okay, one of the skills I developed on the show is how to communicate effectively, because we had different kinds of trainings in the course of the show. We had an academy, the Debaters Academy, that they taught us different kinds of things, how to understand your audience, how to profile your audience, how to communicate using the right words, how to communicate using statistics. Some people will be speaking and they throw figures all around and you confuse your listeners. But your purpose of communication is not because you want to be heard. You want to be sure that the person you are communicating with is listening to you. And that's why my definition of communication is not just the means of passing across information to the other person. It's passing across the information so that you get the required necessary feedback. I call it productive communication, and not just effective communication. You've heard before that effectiveness is doing the right thing. But for me, productivity is not just about doing the right thing, but getting the desired result from the right thing you're doing. So communication is not complete until you receive the expected feedback, from the other individual.
In our society today, communication is key, so you really need to improve on your communication level. That's what young people need to hear. But when we come back on the other side of the program, Salami will be telling us more about building your communication level and being able to, as he said, reduce your confidence level. But that will come up on the other part of the program. Welcome back to Let's Talk Business. We have been talking with Abiola the Champ Salami. He's also known as Abiola Champ. That's what people know him as. He's been telling us about how he was able to transform his raw talent into a skill. Before we left, you said the Debaters helped you to move from your raw talent into a skill, and we're saying that it is skill that people pay for now in the employment market. Talk to us about our educational system. For example, in Nigeria and in most of Africa and the developing world, we have issues where people say, employers say that our educational system does not provide employable graduates for them to. So how do we now, as unemployed, as young graduates, how do we now move our talents? First, to discover your talent and your gifting. From there to move it to skill. How do we discover and move it to a skill like you did?
Okay, the first thing I'd like to say is in any society in the world, not just in Nigeria or in Africa, in any society in the world, people who have been successful and who have been significant in life, they took personal responsibility for their productivity. Once again, I say it again, they took personal responsibility for their productivity. And what that means is that no matter what the government is doing or not doing, every young person out there and every young African listening to me right now, what you need to do is to discover your talent, develop that talent into a skill, and deliver that thing that you have so that you can make the money that you want to make, and so that you can make the difference that you need to make in your society. And the process of self-discovery is simple. It's not as difficult as some people think it is. It is not rocket science. You don't need to even know the almighty formula to know how to discover yourself. Just get involved and get engaged in things. What are you interested in? What's that thing that anytime anybody's talking about it, or anytime you see it being done somewhere, you have an interest. You could easily pick up a hole in that thing. You could easily say, this is a way to make it better. This is what to do to make it look differently. What's that thing that you're interested in? And now that is pointing you towards what your talent is, what you're naturally gifted at. Another way to look at it is within your friendship, within your peers, within your family members, or within your place of worship. That certain things that people say about you, most commonly, not the gossip side of it, but the good side of it, they'll say, oh yeah, she acts well, she speaks well, she dances well, she sings well, or she could draw well, you could design something well. Those are pointers into what your talent is. But if you don't get engaged in doing something, you cannot discover it.
You must be personally responsible and do something.
Do something about it. Just go out. I mean, volunteer for someone. Do something about it, and read also. I mean, read not just educational books, but what I call pro-educational books. Educational books deal with subjects in school, but pro-educational books deal with life. You know, and when you read such books, you even learn from other people. You even have had people who discover themselves by reading about another person. You know, and it's just, you just have to. Even if the government is doing everything well and the education is free and ASU is not on strike and everything is going well, what you want out of life is to maximize your life. What you want is not just to get by, right? What you want is to discover your potential and live to die empty, such that is every giftings that you have that you've been able to put into place. I call gift G-I-F-T, God's investment for a task. Let me take that again, G-I-F-T. God's investment for
That's
a task.
another acronym now.
God's investment for a task. There are a number of things that God has put inside every one of us. Great talents, great ideas that God has buried inside every one of us. But you cannot discover them until you engage in something. And you know, just like the path of the righteous is like a shining light that shines bright and bright until the perfect day. You keep discovering more as you get engaged the more. As you do more, you discover more. I started off this discovery process as a musician. I started by playing local drums. From local drums, I got into playing the drum set. From the drum set, I got into playing the piano and the bass guitar. And now, if you see me now, you may not know that that was how the process was. And now I speak, I consult, I do things with government, I do things with organizations. And it's just a process of building, because I've been on a consistent flow of self-discovery. And when you discover and you keep developing yourself, pay any price to win the prize. You keep developing yourself on and on and on and on again. I mean, the sky is just your start point, not your limit.
That's what most of our young people don't have, the zeal and the determination to discover themselves. Because you see, most of the people of this generation have the feeling that receiver mentality, I don't know how to put it, but that mentality that you are supposed to do for me. I'm not supposed to do anything for myself. Everything is supposed to be done for me. How do we now change this perception amongst our young people? What do we tell them now that will enable them to change their perception to know that you're getting to where you're supposed to get to is your personal responsibility?
Okay, this generation, there are two categories of people in this generation. The first category of people are my people. I call them champions. The other category of people are people who are not champions. Not because they were not created to be champions, but because they've not started realizing that they need to take personal responsibility for their own productivity. Now, one of the things that young people need to realize now, because I believe that every young person watching me now is a champion by default. And one of the things that you need to start to do is just think about it, that in another 30 years, where exactly do you want to be? If you are 15 now, in 30 years' time, you will be 45. If you are 10 now, in 30 years' time, you will be 40. If you're 20 now, in 25 years, you'll be 45. So just ask yourself that, where do I want to be in the next 3 decades? Now, if you can answer that question to see where you want to be, then go on that self-discovery to ask yourself, ask people around, read books. Just take that person. Instead of going for the next party, get the next book. Instead of engaging in the next gossip, get the next book. Instead of watching the next show that is just entertainment, right? Watch something that will add value to you. Because you realize that even the people that are showing you entertainment, they get busy in some places. Because if they've not developed themselves enough, they won't be appealing to you for you to watch. Somebody said that the people that appear on TV don't spend time watching TV. It means they spend their time doing something else, preparing themselves
to be on TV.
You know, to be on TV. And so, even when you are watching the TV, make sure that you're watching a show like this that is value-adding. Make sure you're watching something. I'm not saying don't do entertainment, do it. But if entertainment is where you want to go into, then keep watching entertainment and learning the things, not just what you're seeing on TV, but what it is what goes on behind the scenes that you can never see, you know, to see the excellence that is out there. So it's just about taking it on yourself.
What do you think is the role of the government in all of this? I know that young people must take responsibility, but there's a role that the government is supposed to play. What do you think is the role of the government, the church, what's the role of elders in helping our young people to be able to position to take all these opportunities that are available?
Okay, I'll take them one after the other. For government, the role of the government in any society is to put the right infrastructure in place for the citizenry to grow. Now, from my productivity sense, the role of any government is to put infrastructure in place such that every citizen of that country is not just employed, but very productive. It's not just educated, but very productive, because we have situations of people that are educated, but they are not employed. They're educated, but not employed. Employed, but not productive, you know. And so it's about putting infrastructure in place so that young people can be productive. Because if you think about it, I always say this, that I don't want to tell my children the stories my parents told me. What did my parents tell me? They said to me that once upon a time in my country that the power was stable, that there was no case of up NEPA. Now, and since I've been around in this country, since my birth up until now, there's something I've always heard, up NEPA. And later on, even when the name changed from NEPA to PHCN, people still kept saying up NEPA. Because the thing is, if the power is stable, businesses will thrive and grow, and they will incur less cost on operations. And you know, providing that kind of infrastructure, just think about it. An entrepreneur, some dude that has a bright idea and wants to start, one of the things he needs to worry about
is power.
He needs to really worry about that. So think about it.
It's not just limited to Nigeria, across the African continent and most of the developing nations.
And that is why for us to position Africa to be the most productive continent in the new, in this century, right, the right infrastructure should be put in place. From South Africa to Zimbabwe to Nigeria to Ghana to Liberia to Ethiopia to Uganda to everywhere, to Cote d'Ivoire to Egypt, everywhere. The right infrastructure should be put in place so that there's peace and there's progress and people can thrive. Think about it. China is doing very well. China is almost conquering the world. China is almost becoming #1 now. And China started doing this conscientiously with visionary leadership, such that they started putting the right infrastructure in place for their people to grow. So the role of the government is to put the right infrastructure in place, not just about politicking. Somebody said that a politician thinks about the next election, but an elder statesman thinks about the next generation. So what the government should be doing is thinking about the next generation and putting the right infrastructure in place. For the church needs to be borderless, which is the church doesn't need to be confined to preaching the gospel alone, but the church should embrace preaching the kingdom. The kingdom, the message of the kingdom is the gospel. The gospel is for the kingdom. The gospel is not the end in itself. The gospel is the means to an end. The end itself is expanding the kingdom. And what is the kingdom? The kingdom is establishing what God wants to see as it is in heaven. So should it be on earth. And so the church is not supposed to be secluded to those that are Christians alone. The church needs to expand and expand its purpose, expand its influence, even to remote areas, to places, to non-Christians, such that they can see Christianity as a kingdom and not just as a religion. And it's about the values of Christianity, the purpose of Christianity, those things that are in God's heart. I always say this, that who are Christians really? And just a couple of guys that some people in Antioch saw that they were behaving like Christ. And Christ said that he did not come to meet the rich. He didn't come. He came for the lost, right? He didn't come for the people who already understand what God is. What the church should focus more on is expanding the kingdom and expanding the gospel with the intention of expanding the kingdom.
Okay, that's it about the church. What about elders? What do elders do for young people?
The place of mentoring and mentorship cannot be overemphasized. Because who is a mentor? A mentor is somebody that has gone through what you are going through or what you will still go through and is willing to provide necessary support. Two key things that a mentor should have is not just because the person is older than the other person, not just because the person is an elder chronological age, but the person should have the ability to mentor and the person should have the willingness to mentor. So we need elders who have the ability, who've been around for years, who have experience, who are trustworthy, people of integrity and character, people whose competence, whose integrity, whose character is not in doubt, people who have used their creativity to solve a problem in times past, people who have compassion for young people, people who have the right candor. We need them who have that ability to also add some willingness to it and mentor people. As an elder, you can decide that you want to mentor 5 or 10 people within your environment, not just your children, because the best way to recreate yourself is to guide and mentor someone into the future.
That's right. That's right. Thank you very much. That's a very deep thing you shared right now. But I know that there's also a role, aside from the role of the government, the church, and elders, there's a role that young people need to play themselves. We'll be looking at that when we come back on the last part of the program. Abiola the champ will still be here to tell you what you need to do to grow from where you are to the next level. Don't go anywhere. Let's Talk Business. We'll be right back.
News, just as you want it, covering all angles as we move all around the world. Follow the flow and we'll bring yours.
Yes, our flow, always on point, on local, national, international, entertainment and sports news. We are second to none. We inform you for greater impact. ABN News.
At this time.
Welcome back. Abiola Champ would give you the last tip you need to know to be able to move you to the level you need to be at. Abiola, you are a champ. From where you were, you developed into becoming what you are now. You were telling us of how the British High Commission and everybody was involved in your last. Tell us about it again in a few minutes.
Okay, it's about the game conference again, and it was just a pleasure that we hosted delegates from U.S. Consulate, we hosted delegates from British High Commission, we hosted delegates from Akintola Williams Deloitte, from several banks also that came around. We hosted delegates from Leap Africa, from Gemstone, from a couple of AGDC, a couple of multinationals and international organizations, and the feedback has been enormous.
I'm going to pause you. How do you get from where you were to becoming somebody who is hosting an event at United States Embassy? Because many young people want to know and say, oh, this guy is up there. How did he get there? Tell us, look into the camera and tell that young person sitting there who just graduated from school, who is looking for what to do, who the university has been on strike all the while, who hasn't had anything to do, who is really lost and looking for what is the next step I need to take. Look into the camera and tell them what they need to do.
Okay, all I want to say to you is the power of vision. What is your vision? Now, your vision doesn't have anything to do with ASU strike. In fact, the fact that there's ASU strike should make you happy, that you could develop yourself towards pursuing and attaining your vision. Your vision doesn't have anything to do with what the government is doing or what the government is not doing. The fact that the government is probably not doing something to support you should even give you more confidence to pursue what you need to pursue. People thrive on vision, and it is that vision that you have that you pursue passionately that can get you to where you want to be. And I submit to you today that if you aspire to acquire your desire of becoming a champion, and you are willing to hustle for it, tussle for it, and wrestle for it, not minding the intimidation of the desire, the conspiracy of the people around you, or the situation of your environment, your idea, dream, vision, goal, yearning could be personal or corporate. It may be local or global. It may be for generation now or generation next. This burning desire is the solution to a problem, the answer to a question, an idea whose time has come, or a dream to be your best, or a vision you earnestly want to birth, and it is only this desire that gives you joy and fulfillment in life. If all you think about, all you talk about, and all you walk about is this felicity, and you don't retire, resign, or recede even in the face of adversity, but you are willing to fight for it, to pay for it, and go for it so that you can have tranquility. Neither opinions, dominions, or decisions can hold you back. No failure, frailty, or flaw can stand in your way. Not even wealth, health, or death can stop you. With you on God's side and with God on your side, you shall surely become the champion that you were created to be. My name remains Abiola Salami, and that voice you should always listen to because I speak to champions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abiola Salami.
Thank you.
Indeed, you are the champion.
Thank you.
I see what the debaters have done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching today's episode with Abiola Salami on the program. You can follow Abiola Salami on his website. His website is www.abiolachamp.com. If you visit that website, you can get every information you need to get about him. He'll be here some other time on the program. But like we usually say on this program, my name is Segun Manuel, and we have been talking business.
One of the advantages of the third world countries is that they are emerging. They are
If you
dynamic.
employ people, what is the minimum wage that people are supposed to be paid for the kind of job they're doing?
Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Business. My name is Segun Manuel, and on Let's Talk Business we look at how to build entrepreneurship, not just in Africa but in the developing nations of the world. I urge you to join us here to watch Let's Talk Business weekdays on this station.